Okay, so we're on, and we're going to be talking about, are men smarter than women? And people might think we're just talking about it to be difficult, or maybe we're misogynists. I'm not sure if Claire's a misogynist. She's a woman, but she can be a misogynist, can't you, Claire?
It depends
If you
on what
try.
you mean. I suppose if you define misogynistic as anyone who says something a feminist might find objectionable, then anyone could be a misogynist, I suppose, if you challenge feminist theory and a feminist calls you that. But I don't think all women are feminists, or that they should be. I think all women
Mm.
ought to be asking themselves whether feminism has been a good thing for women.
I think it's a pretty bad thing considering they're more unhappy than ever. Their relationships are not working out and things like that. And that's actually why we're talking about this. It's not just to be difficult, but to for me to try to explain or logically explain as best I can what is the most, I don't want to go even natural. Like, what's the most helpful or in line with your own nature so you get the best out of your relationships work, and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I'm a Muslim, and so I'm going to be quoting this verse of the Quran where my ideas come from. It says, men are guardians. And in terms of guardians, it means leader, protector, or provider. So men are guardians over women because Allah has made some of them excel. And that means the Arabic word is full of meaning. So it basically means you have the ability, you have a distinction, you have a certain virtue that enables you to be a leader. And even there's a strange meaning in the word. It says men prefer work over leisure. And I think there's some sort of truth in that. Men can get quite obsessed about their work. If you look at any entrepreneur, that their work is their hobby. Um, so it gives some qualities of men for why they are given this job of being guardians, and because it says, the Quran says, because they spend of their wealth, they take care of women and their families with their wealth. And I think a lot of men quite enjoy that. So virtuous women are those, continuing with the verse of the Quran, so virtuous women are those who are obedient and guard the secrets of their husbands with Allah's protection. And as for those, and there's more about wife beating and this kind of other stuff, like if your wife disobeys you, but I'm more focused in like, why should men be in charge of the household? And I'm just going to lay out some facts really fast, really basic things. First of all, there's a thing called the gender pay gap. People see that, or a lot of feminists or liberals consider that some sort of evidence of oppression. But no, it's just men are better at making money. It's always been like that. And that's the statistic. There's a gender pay gap because men do, first of all, they do jobs that make more money. They're more into things, STEM related topics, so science, technology. A lot of women that I know barely can function a computer, make a computer work properly, and they just don't have the same interest like men do in things. So psychologists will tell you men are into things, women are into people. And so the fact that men can make more money doesn't make women less worthwhile, of less value. It's just a materialistic mindset that makes feminists. I think feminism is actually a sort of a materialistic idea where they're trying to encourage women to work and things like that, because that's somehow more valuable than taking care of the family, raising children and things like that. So men are better at making money, therefore they should make money. It's called, what's it called in economics? Uh, Something of division of labor, basically specialization, where if you're good at something, you do that. If everybody tries to do the same thing, if both husband and wife both try to work, both do their jobs badly, because you need somebody to take care of the home. There's so many bad side effects, like if the wife goes out to work. What we're experiencing now in the West is sexless marriages, because when women are tired, they don't want to have sex. When men are tired, they can have sex anytime, so there's no problem. So there's that. I'm just thinking, just throwing out a few other ideas. Women actually want men who make more money. So there's stats saying that if you're a stay-at-home dad, then you are three times more likely to get divorced. So women are actually looking for people, for men who can support them, who can have more money than them. So those are just some of the ideas. What do you think? And you might be thinking, what's this got to do with, are men smarter? Well, my argument is going to be that men are smarter in terms of making money, even though some people might know that IQ levels are the same on average. But what you have is, you have uh, most of the geniuses are men. So you might have seen the thumbnail. But then there's also a lot of men who are low on the IQ level, and they might say, oh, that means men are stupid. Well, the kind of men we're talking about who might be considered stupid on IQ levels are people who are not good at maths, like people like Richard Branson, who are useless at maths at school, but when it comes to business, they're amazing. So there's kinds of intelligence that are not measured by IQ levels. And so even if you're not like an entrepreneur who's not good at maths, like Richard Branson, there's a whole bunch of other categories where you, as a man, you might do badly in IQ levels, but you'll be doing better in terms of money. For example, they did experiments on Uber drivers, and male Uber drivers make more money than female Uber drivers, just because they figure out faster routes and remember things. And I think women generally don't care about making money. They want the money, but they're kind of more interested in socializing, in their relationships and things like that. So they're not really focused like men are in finding the fastest route and things like that. Their brains are not geared like that. In fact, testosterone makes you, I think it's called spatial logic or something. Basically, you're good at figuring. Testosterone makes you more logical and figure things out. And the last thing I kind of want to wind up with, we kind of know all this stuff. We know women are kind of irrational, emotional, and whatever, and that's not a bad thing. Like, that's a nice thing about women. Like, if everybody was like men and all logical and serious and stuff like that, it would be a boring world. So we like a bit of both. It's not like this is something against women. Women are like a lot more caring. My wife's a lot more caring than I am. She's the one who has to keep telling me to phone up my dad and my parents and all this kind of stuff and do nice stuff like that. So there's different strengths. Women's strength is kindness, where our men's strength is logic and stuff. Claire, I'll let you speak after that massive long speech.
So you're saying that men earn more money and therefore they are smarter. And who can deny this? But if we look at Western society the way it is now, who would you say has more power as a voter and a citizen of a Western nation?
Okay, so who has more power? I suppose women, because like they can turn down men in terms of relationships, and they do mostly. So they've got that control, and that the fact that they can turn men down means men have to do in liberal modern societies. Men feel they need to suck up to women, and so they will change their belief systems to match women's belief systems, even if
You
it's
mean lie
illogical.
to them and pretend to agree with women?
I think people don't like to feel that they're sucking up to other people, so they convince themselves, men convince themselves that their belief system is that women are better. And you hear a lot of men saying that, oh, they're more intelligent, they're more this and that, and they're kinder, and then they're this and whatever. So I think people feel the need to convince themselves of that. Oh, yeah, but in short, yeah, they lie to themselves, yeah.
Yes, so you were saying that women are actually more powerful than men in Western society.
Mm.
So, how can men be said to be cleverer than women if they have allowed a state of affairs in which women have such power over them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you stop using your intelligence when you lose religion. I think that
Well, it
could
has
be
been said
why.
that when men are when men meet a woman they fancy, their brains fall out and they allow another organ to do their thinking in quotes
Okay, yeah,
for them.
yeah, that's true. Um,
So they are easily
yeah.
led astray too. I know you'll be saying that, oh, women are led astray by their emotions, but it would appear that men are also easily led astray by their lusts.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that happening. So, um, I would say non-religious people who are led away from, their lust, so their brains aren't working as well, they're achieving a lot less, because they're dissatisfied in their lives, they're not getting married, and married people statistically make more money, and that's quite logical, because they're not, you know, confused by, their emotional, their testosterone side. So the testosterone can help in terms of being logical if it can be channeled, but if at the same time it can uh, distract it towards porn and sex and prostitutes and all that kind of stuff.
Are you
Um,
talking about sublimation? Have you heard of that concept?
no, tell me about it.
So, sublimation is basically men channeling their sexual desires in a socially constructive way, such as towards their work and career and whatever it is that they will be using to build up their resources and status.
Well, I'm
So they
saying
sort of
that,
know that, I mean, no woman
yeah.
is going to have them if they're poor and stupid. So then they concentrate on their studies and they excel in their field and become desirable bachelors.
I think in theory that sounds good, but I wasn't saying quite that. I was saying if you get married, then you're more stable, and then you will automatically go up the career ladder more because you're just more mentally stable and things like that. You can have the theory that um, if you're sex starved, basically, then you might form a plan that you're going to work your way up the career ladder. And some people do, but most people are just confused by their hormones, wanking over porn and stuff like that, and quite depressed and directionless. Especially, but when you don't have religion, you are directionless, and you don't really. Get anywhere. So yeah. So Jay saying define smarter, and that's a good question actually. I wouldn't just say IQ, and I'm actually my argument here for here is smarter in terms of making money, and that's not the only valuable way of being smarter. So women are smarter in terms of kindness. And people might say, well, that doesn't make sense. How can you be smarter in terms of kindness? Well, actually, just because it doesn't make money doesn't mean it doesn't have any value. So I would say men are that's where I was actually going with when I made the title is like there are different kinds of smartness, and men are smarter at making money. Women are smarter at being kind, um, even though people might not see that as a form of kindness. I mean, a form of intelligence, but it is. Um, and yeah, and we can see men are just better at making money. They are stronger as well, so that helps in making money. Just like having the fitness to do a lot of tough jobs. They don't get they don't get as scared. Like there are a lot of really dangerous jobs that men do out in oil rigs and fishing and stuff like that. But also in the modern age, where the real money is made is in technology, and men are just far more interested in technology, so they're smarter in that way. So hope that answers your question. What do you feel, Claire? in my answer. So my answer is men are smarter at making money, women are smarter in terms of kindness, and that's a different kind of intelligence that Westerners just don't even consider.
Well, to answer Jay's question about defining smarter, I would say wiser. Are men
Mm.
or women wiser? And I think that the jury's still out on it.
That's a really good point. I would say when men are generally wiser um, because they don't let their emotions take over. And so this verse of the Quran does actually say that men are leaders. And they're leaders, I would say, for two different good reasons. One is that they don't let their emotions take over, and they do make everything personal and emotional and short term. And I'll give you a few examples of that in a second. So I was watching a video about um, the development of the fetus in the Quran, right? And all I could see in the comments is, "I just had a baby. Oh my god!" It's like you're like, okay, this is not what this video is about. It's like talking about the development. You know what I mean? Like loads of women just like, "I had a baby after 7 years. Pray for me." Blah, blah. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like they're making it all about themselves and personal. Men are sort of impersonal, which lets them step back a little bit and think things through, and they make the money, so they understand the wider world, so they're wiser in that sense. I think there could be other kinds of wisdom that women are better at, maybe because they're calmer in some ways, and through their kindness, but men are wiser in the sense for leadership, I would say. And the second reason why they are leaders is that they're willing to take tough decisions, unpopular decisions. Like women, according to psychologists, are agreeable as well. So it doesn't help you be a leader. You know, you're just swayed by feelings and, like being nice over doing the right thing. So yeah, I would say men are wiser in the ways that benefit leadership. What do you think?
Well, I suppose you can only say, you think this, and then somebody will be able to provide some evidence that some women are wiser than other men. But going to that verse that you're talking about, I mean, it
Yeah,
does say that men are a degree above women, doesn't
yeah,
it? That
yeah.
is what it says. But then it is conditional because it goes on to say that men are a degree above women if they protect and provide for them. So women only owe their fathers and husbands a duty if they pay the bills. And if they don't pay the bills, then we owe nothing to these people, these men.
Yeah, I'm just going through it, but it's like, yeah, there is a sort of if, and like some translations say as, because they do that. Well, there's actually two reasons. So men are guardians over women because Allah has made some of them excel, blah, 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 others, and because they spend of their wealth. So there's two reasons: because they've been made better for leadership, and I would say a lot of people can tell that women are more emotional and short-term thinking, and men are just calmer and long-term thinking. Um, and yeah, and
I think
also
it's because that men are expected to defend territory and do the dirty business of killing. Because I think that's fundamentally
yeah,
it. That men are expected to defend territory and defend their women and children against invaders. And if
that's
that is
kind
what
of
men are supposed to do, then obviously women, if they don't want their countries invaded and them taken away as slaves by foreign men, then they should support their men. But if they're
Okay, so
men do
most
nothing,
people think that doesn't really happen in the mostly in the modern world, or not in England anyway, because we don't get
well,
taken over.
a
Maybe
lot of
in
white
the
men are whinging about Muslims invading their country and taking their women.
UK. Okay, that sort of invasion. That's interesting. So how would the white men defend it, like in that scenario? So you're saying men are supposed to protect from invasion. So how do they protect from
Well,
immigrants?
they can't because, if men are supposed to defend territory, then, they seem to be helpless against mass immigration. And when you say to them, look, you need to defend principles, and then they just sort of look blank, like, what are principles? Who wants principles? You can't wear them. You can't eat them. You can't, it's like, we don't want principles.
Hmm.
And they don't want principles. They don't want a moral system from which to derive moral principles. You see, these men who are always complaining about Muslim invaders, they have
Hmm.
no principles. They are atheists and nihilists
Yeah.
who wouldn't know what a principle was, even if it came up to them and smacked them in the face. And they still wouldn't want it because they have to be put through the trouble of defending them, and these men are not up to it.
So I think, yeah, their problem is hedonism because they don't want principles because principles they feel limit them. They don't realize
The rules,
principles.
I mean, basically, these principles are rules, and these um, useless men, unprincipled nihilists who don't want to be following any leader or following any principle, they don't want any of it. And that's why they always fall back on blaming Jews and complaining about Muslims. That's what they're going to be doing until they pop their clogs.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm thinking of different. There's extreme categories that blame Jews, but I would say there's most of England are um, becoming. A lot of men are becoming sort of useless, and they're not bothering to even try to get married or anything like that, and they're
They
getting
think
more.
they're women. They think they're going to get a bit of feminine privilege um, by becoming women, by castrating themselves so they can be women.
Yeah, I think they don't have direction, so they don't know that men are supposed to do certain things. It used to be obvious at one point in time, but now because they've been told that there's no difference between men and women, it's all the same, they don't feel that they have a role, and they're really confused and they don't have direction. So it's like they're castrating themselves, as you say, um, by with confusion because they've convinced themselves
Well,
that.
I don't get
Yeah.
confused because if you think about why a man might want to become a woman, they'll probably think,
Oh,
oh,
literally, like we're women or effeminate in the sense that they don't have any masculine traits.
no, I mean men who actually
Oh,
go
trans.
through what they call gender affirming
Oh,
therapy,
okay,
who go
right.
through the hormone blockers,
Sure, trans
etc.
men, trans women, whatever you call it,
Yeah,
men.
transgender women,
Trans.
men
Yeah,
who want to become women. So
yeah.
basically, I think what they want is, yeah, feminine privilege is to have more offers of sex than you're prepared to accept. And being men, primarily motivated by sex, they think this would be the ideal situation for them to be
Do you
in,
think
to
they
have
think
more
they'll
offers of
get
sex
sex?
than they're prepared to accept.
Do you think these trans people get offered sex? I don't know by who. It looks so
Well,
disgusting, but
I think they um I think they want to be in, porn movies and things like that.
ugh.
To
Um,
affirm.
I've got a feeling it's because men in the West aren't able to share their emotions, and so they feel like, oh, women get to share their emotions, and they um, those men, these trans men feel like, oh, maybe they get to show their emotions, and that's what's missing in their lives or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think they feel like they're really missing on something, and women are having all the emotions and they're having all the fun being able to express themselves. But I don't think that's how men really enjoy themselves. So, I mean, you do need to express yourself to some extent, but I think men like to be useful as well, and they like to fill masculine roles to really feel fulfilled, like
But
lead, have a
they're just like, they're behaving like a damsel in distress, waiting for their knight in shining armor to come whisk them away after
Mm.
slaying the dragon. That's what these transgender men and men who haven't, even men who don't want to be transgender, they expect somebody else to come and solve their problem for them.
Yeah, okay, so that's an interesting thing, an idea of somebody else solving their problem for them, because that's
Oh, they
what
want mummy or nanny to come and clean the mess up. That's what they want.
yeah, I
I mean,
think
this
that's
is
the
what I think of
holistic
Jews
right,
as
isn't it?
doing, waiting for the Messiah to come, like he was a maid of all work, so they don't have to tidy up their room, as Jordan Peterson keeps telling them to do.
Yeah, I think that the waiting for somebody else to fix the problem, that represents a lot of lit, modern liberals and the dissident right. So dissident right always complaining about it's somebody else's fault, but they don't think they have to do anything about it. Although there's a few voices realizing that men have to step up and be masculine and be strong and that kind of stuff. There's a few people saying that kind of stuff, but a lot of people have developed a victim mindset. So I'd agree that there are a lot of men, and it's not just trans men. I think trans men are also maybe on the extreme of some sort, but I would say a lot of modern men who don't have direction, who don't realize they need to be masculine, they are looking, they have adopted a victim mindset. That's true, like damsels in distress, like as you've said. So yeah.
Yes, I think another word that might be used about these men um, who are damsels in distress is that they are what's the word, infantilized. They become, you know infants sucking their thumb, expecting nanny to come and change their soiled nappies, and women just feel utter contempt for these men, really, and that's why they'll just keep voting for political parties who will um, um, what's the word,
Yeah, so there's a term
keep
for that, right?
facilitating this.
Yeah, and the idea of men not being grown up, there's a term which is increasingly common, is a man child. But I would say I think it's a bit unfair just to say there's only man child. So I think there was also women who are highly underdeveloped as well. So they are saying I want to marry a millionaire and all this kind of stuff, and it's just not going to happen, and they end up having sex with lots of, I don't know, strangers, one night stands or something. I don't know, and then have children, and then I don't know. But yeah, I think on both sides, people are underdeveloped, and that's what happens when you're not religious. Because when you're religious, you have to think deeply. You're told every Sunday at church, or every Friday at the mosque, or every Saturday at the in the what's it called? The synagogue, to think deeply about your values, family, think ahead, and all this kind of stuff. But if you're not taught that part of your life, you're highly underdeveloped. You just taught math, you're taught wherever you're taught at school, but your parents are not teaching you anything. So most of society is highly underdeveloped. So I suppose coming back to IQ, loads of people's IQs are pretty low in terms of maybe emotional intelligence, or wisdom intelligence, or family intelligence, or whatever it is, spiritual intelligence. Yeah, they're highly lacking in.
Well, I think very intelligent people can be very foolish if they have the wrong beliefs, because they're actually more creative in inventing excuses and, you know, apparently clever explanations for the stupid things that they do. And
Yeah.
I think
There's a
that's
lot of
unwise.
clever people like Elon Musk who are highly successful in making money and terrible in their personal relationships and are highly depressed. So Elon Musk is very depressed. He's currently taking antidepressants. I can't remember which kind of antidepressant, some sort of ketamine. That's what it was, I think.
Oh, did he admit
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah, he said it on some show. I can't remember some. Yeah, he said it to
Recently?
somebody Lemon, Don Lemon. It's on YouTube. Don Lemon,
Uh-huh.
some American. What's his name? Something Lemon. I don't know. It's a black guy.
Right.
He lost his job
Mm-hmm.
recently from can't remember well, and now he's just gone independent YouTuber. Anyway, so yeah, so that's on YouTube. But he's always been. Elon Musk has always said he don't
He's an
want to be me.
atheist, right? He's an atheist.
Basically,
Jay wants to join.
who?
Jay Walker
Oh,
wants
Jay.
to.
Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, I've had my thing a bit squeezed, so I couldn't see it. Where does it say that? Did he? Oh, Nick,
in the
please.
comments.
Oh, he's saying in the comments. Sorry, it's Let me. I've actually put it on the top, but I should paste it again. So invite, copy, and paste. There you go, Jay. Thanks for offering. We want you here. Be nice to talk to you. So, okay, and while Jay's coming on, let's just whiz through some of these comments. If a woman is into computers, doesn't mean that they're a lesbian. Although it's a funny joke, first of all, women tend not to be very interested. I was training to be a computer science teacher, and half of the course is to teach programming, and the women were not interested in even learning. I was offering to teach, but anyway. So yeah, and also it means if they focus too much on their careers, what tends to happen is they don't have kids. Hey Jay, what's your opinion? Do you agree or disagree with anything I'm saying about, or we're saying about intelligence? Do you think men have a certain kind of intelligence women don't, especially in terms of making
most, if not all, of what you're saying makes sense, but you may be missing the point. And men can be smart, women can be smart. I mean, men can be stupid, women can be stupid. I don't think it.
So I'm gonna pause you for a minute, because I really don't want you to sound like one of those liberals who think anything is true, because that just makes you really dumb, isn't it? And I don't think you're dumb, right? So those liberals.
I mean, already you're telling me what I cannot say, which is not wise.
Sorry?
You're already telling me what I can and cannot say, and you accuse me.
I think you can say anything you want, but I'm worried that you might be coming across as one of those people who saying anything is true, but not anything is true.
But did I say that?
But it sounded like it, so that's why I'm saying that. I'm asking you just to clarify. Are you saying anything is true? Like anybody can be clever in anything? That's why I need to clarify.
No, I'm not saying that. So you've just wasted a minute.
No, I haven't wasted a minute. I'm asking you to clarify, because I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah, it is. I was reading a book on Kabbalah yesterday, and it was talking about Zohar, and I think that was relative to what you're talking about. And from my limited knowledge, Zohar is the all the wisdom in the spiritual Jewish community that has been. The first student, the first Kabbalist was Abraham. That is what they think anyway.
Okay.
But their philosophy is, it's how, and this is where it relates to your stream, are men smarter than women or smarter? It's how we approach life. So if a person approaches life from the area of self completely. And I think your discussion with Claire was mainly about self, about the areas around that. But
do you say the self, just to be clear?
Yeah, just the self. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's about money, it's about power, are men smarter than women? All that mentality is about the human condition. But from reading the Zohar stuff yesterday, and it's I don't know if Claire remembers learning about this, she probably doesn't, but it's saying that wise people, it's how you mirror the world, it's what you can give, what you can get from the world, and it's from them basic, like almost primitive views that your future will be decided. So, for example, if you're full of yourself and full of whether it be ego or opinions and stuff, you're going to struggle. Even if you do get some sort of success, it won't be long lasting. But a wise person would realize their own limitations. There is no need to be seen. There's no need to be heard. And one may feel better if they gave to the world instead of taking or expecting like the world to meet the vision of how I want the world to be. So when it comes down to the fundamental position of like we have a choice as to how we approach life itself, and I do think some of the when I say happiest, some of the most content people that I know are pretty simple people who have they don't want for a lot of things. They don't need a lot of things. They're not
sure. The more you need to show off, the more you need to know. Like, I mean, sorry, the more you need. Like, so if you, for example, if you got a big ego, then you need more money to show off that you are more special than other people, and you need more views on YouTube, and you need XX. You know, it keeps going on and on, and it's never ending.
Yeah, so you're dominated by fear in that sense. So that would be considered not a smart way to live, but maybe a smart way to live would be realize what you need, you know, as in basic provisions, and to actually try to fulfill that, and maybe put some good into the world from your position, and try to keep it relative as well, keep it simple, you know, and that way you'll be a lot more content. And I would have thought that is possibly smarter than trying to be a bank robber, or I don't know, something as crazy as that. Really.
Yeah, I think there's a short-term and long-term view, isn't it? So you can be intelligent in getting something in the short term, but you lose in the long term. Like the bank robber example, you might make some money, but then you'll be on the run for the rest of your life and stuff like that.
Well, there's a fantastic thing. There's a fantastic thing in the Sermon on the Mount, and it talks about, as an example, that the bank robber will never own the money that he stole. So if you were to you do teaching, don't you? Say if you were going to teach 100 people over the next 6 months, then that money is from your skills, from your work, your effort. You're appreciated, and that money's got value. If you go and rob a bank tomorrow, that money ain't yours. It might be in your pocket. And I've had this discussion many times with Claire, who didn't understand it. But I said, you will not get away with stealing it. And Claire thinks I'm talking about getting arrested by the police. I'm like, no, it's not about that. You cannot get away with. You don't.
Claire, robbing banks is bad. Do you not understand, Claire?
What I've been saying to Jay is that the New Testament is an inferior scripture and has nothing for you to follow if you want to obey the laws of God. In fact, the New Testament isn't even from God. And that's why it's just sort of, you know, if anybody has read the Sermon on the Mount, they'll know it's just full of empty platitudes saying nothing of significance. But Jay loves it because, you know, he holds that book and that's his defense against Islam and Muslims.
Why
So
do you
was there
think?
a bank robber example, Jay, in the Sermon on the Mount?
No, there's not. But there's some fantastic stuff in around the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not steal, and the reasons why we shouldn't steal.
I think civilized countries know that there should be laws against stealing, so we don't need Sermon on the Mount to tell us that.
No. You have legislation, Claire, and as a failed barrister, you'll know all about that.
I never practiced as a barrister, but what is your point about Sermon on the Mount?
So
telling us not to steal, it's just stupid.
Yeah, in the spiritual kingdom, of which something else you know nothing about.
Spiritual kingdom? What's that?
That's boring ad hominem because it makes no. It's not intelligent.
No, he's just full of shit. Really, he has nothing to say other than to take up your time because he thinks he can. Right? He has. What has he said other than Sermon on the Mount is better than the Quran? He can't read the Quran because he's too full of hate to read it. Right?
Okay, so let's see where we can make progress on this topic of are men smarter, right? So first of all, I think you've already agreed, Jay, that men are smarter at making money, generally speaking, and it's good to know generally what works, and then we can use that. Is that right? You know, like then we can work together as a team. So who's good at this and who's good at that? So would you agree, less as a starting point, men are better at making money?
I don't know.
Okay. Would you say men have created most of the world we see, like in terms of buildings?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Okay. And so there's a lot of money to be made in this infrastructure, things like the internet. Do you know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
So I would say people who have got a natural interest in it, they can make more money doing that. Would you say that's a reasonable bit of logic?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I would say, starting from this basic thing, I mean, let's say we've roughly agreed that men, based on this maybe flawed logic, who knows, but based on this logic, that men are better at making money. So it would make sense that women should do something else. And one of the other really big things that society doesn't seem to value, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not, society doesn't seem to value raising children. Do you think modern society values raising children compared to making money, let's say?
It's a good question. I think these days probably not. I don't not compared to 1960s and 70s when raising children was almost a job in itself, but children now are
would you not say it still is a full-time job, except for most people don't do it properly?
Well, it's not a full-time job for many people because they have what's called breakfast clubs and after-school clubs, and then.
So, do you think strangers are going to do a good job? You know, people who getting paid minimum wage.
No, it's
they're
shocking.
not going to do a good job. And they don't. There's statistics that say, for example, and it's really sad, like you have little children who are like 6 months old, 1 year old, they get sent to these strangers, right? They don't get picked up as much statistically as their parents would pick them up. Not a surprise. And then they become like, there's some sort of psychological harm, which I wouldn't be surprised. Imagine a kid that's just left alone for ages. Do you know what I mean? There's some,
and absolutely, yeah.
So I would say that we should have teamwork, okay? And men should go out to make the money, and women should take care of the home. Now, what happens if the teamwork in modern society is that both men and women go out to work? What happens is a man comes home, his wife is tired, who's also come back from work, and she's bitter and she's annoyed. She definitely doesn't want to have sex. And so he comes back to, guess what? He comes back to hell, right? So he doesn't even want to work, right? That's just one of the many problems. And there's another problem called the two-income trap. I mean, have you ever heard of the two-income trap? Or can you imagine what the two-income trap is?
No, absolutely.
Right? You're going to have loads of overheads of childcare and all sorts of things, and probably one of the hidden overheads, drugs, because you're so miserable when you come back home. You probably want to start taking drugs and do all sorts of other things. So it doesn't really work very well when both husband and wife are going out to work, and then they have sexless marriages because the wife is too tired to have sex when she comes back from work because of this horrible job she has, which is.
But hang on, whoa, yeah. A lot of these husbands and wives, or men and women that both go out to work, don't do that because they want to. They do it because they need to put the hours in to get the money to pay the rent of a mortgage or school fees, whatever. It's not a choice.
That's a really common argument, and thank you for putting it right. So the way I would see it, right, is that I've managed somehow, and loads of traditional families have managed somehow to have husband go out to work, mom stay at home. Right?
Yeah, traditional. The word traditional.
Yeah, but how comes? It's because they have different expectations of what they need, right? And so if you think you need loads of materialistic things to be happy, then you will need to go out for more
right,
work.
But let's get back to what I said 5 minutes ago about Zohar, about how you approach it from a fundamental state. So it would be wise to realize that we don't need 4 holidays and 2 cars. We'll probably get by on 1 wage. We'll have less money, but we'll have a much better unit. So that would be considered smart. So
sure.
how you come at it,
Yeah, I want to ask Claire a question because I feel she's been a bit left out there. What do you think? There's another kind of wisdom that Jay was kind of about to point out, and I think it was kind of I think Jay started off talking about like this kind of selfish, individualistic kind of intelligence, where it's like, how can I get stuff? But if you zoom out and maybe look into what are the needs of the family, how can we work together as a community, as a family, and stuff like that? Is there sort of intelligence, a greater kind of intelligence that involves seeing how we can work together using each of our individual strengths, as men using our strengths, women using their different kind of strengths?
Yeah, but
do you think that's kind of
support it? He's not even going to talk about
leave Jay. Let's not have like Jay.
You were asking me about what Jay said.
No. Well, okay. Let's put it this way. Do you think it's more intelligent to think as a family unit rather than as an individual?
Well,
does that question make sense?
We are nothing as individuals.
But it's not obvious because most of society is individualistic.
Sorry?
Most of society, I'm saying it's not obvious because most of society is individualistic, and they don't even see the value of working as a team between husband and wife with different strengths. They don't see that. So could you, let's let you, because I know you know this stuff, so can you possibly educate us on like, how could we work to our strengths, really using our intelligence?
Well, we should agree on the rules, otherwise there's no point, right? So we should choose a moral system whose rules we can agree on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you mean so that's right. So we might realize that men have different strengths, women have different strengths, but we need a system so that we can actually work together as a team. We need the rules to do that. Yeah, does that make sense? Shall we try to answer some of the questions in the chat?
Can I make a point, please?
Go on. Yeah.
But say, for example, you have so say myself and or yourself and Claire. So I'm the male, Claire's the female. So I would go out and work and do all of that, and Claire would stay home with the children. Well, that would be like horrendous for the children. I mean, Claire, for example, hates children and doesn't want to have anything to do with them.
Well, I would hate to be married to you, so I don't know why he has this fantasy of us being married. I don't know.
Well, anybody who had the unluckiness to marry you or whatever. But
no.
You're
Okay.
divorced. You're divorced.
Let's make a real point. Let's make a real point out of this, because there is something.
Well, Claire is probably on the same path as Myra Hindley regarding being a parent.
Are you saying I'm a mass murderess?
Let's not. Ad hominem is really boring for me, quite frankly.
He's just a waste of time. But I mean, he's a good example of an Islamophobe who has nothing meaningful to say, whose purpose is only to distract and to troll.
Okay, so I will take the point, Claire, right, that people say that some women are not good at, being nurturing and something like that. And I would say also some, there are basically, I would say that would demonstrate there's something wrong with their psychological makeup. Because, for example...
Okay, so don't marry them. Don't marry them. Marry women that you think are going to be good wives and mothers, not Myra Hindley types.
Yes, and you can also be trained into this kind of stuff, right? So if you've been trained, and a lot of women say this, like, "Oh my gosh," even in the East now, "Oh my gosh, I can't stay at home taking care of children. I find that too boring." People have been trained into that. Why would you find raising your own children boring? But a lot of westernized women, and I would say even from the East, who've been absorbing these Western ideas, they are beginning to think, "Oh my God, being at home is boring." So I would say to Jay that's part of social conditioning and poor training and poor development. Just like some people are not polite, that's poor training. They haven't been trained by their parents properly, as an argument. And that comes back to the verse of the Quran that says most men are in this situation where they are better than women in providing and things like that, right? There are women who might be better at providing, but there's two things. I would say there's an imbalance. There's not an imbalance. The women need to maybe they've overly focused on their careers. And we know one of the main reasons, I don't know if you know this, but one of the main reasons why women are not having children nowadays is because they overly focus on their careers, and careers only take off by the time you're something like 40. And by the time, if you wait that long, you won't be able to have kids. So in short, there are scenarios where women are either better at making money or incapable of being mothers, right? In both cases, they have not been trained properly, just like men need to be trained into masculinity and doing their roles as well. Let me ask Claire, do you agree with that? Like, do you think, like, let's say you feel like you're not a good mother, that means you just haven't been raised properly?
Well, it's all about moral education, right? So we need to be told what we're supposed to do and what the rules are. And if people don't even know if they're male or female, then obviously they're not going to be performing their gender roles and getting married and becoming parents.
Like the verse of the Quran says, women should be obedient, right? Now, being obedient is not bad if the person you're obedient to is somebody you love and is being taken care of. But if you've been trained in the West to be nagging and always fighting for your rights, you don't think being obedient is a good thing. Would you agree? Like that. So that's the moral. That the moral in that case for women is to be obedient. The morality, I don't know.
Yes, in fact, it used to be part of the marriage vow for English women or Anglican women to promise to love, honor, and obey their husband. And the late Princess of Wales, Lady Diana, refused to say it.
Oh, really? Oh, God, she's an idiot. Okay. Poor thing. Okay, so let's come back to Jay. You said there are some women who are not naturally good at being mothers. Would you say that is because they haven't been raised properly and they should, from childhood, be ready to be good mothers?
I think it's just maternal instinct, and I mean, obviously Claire doesn't have any of that, and she's
no. Come on, it's getting boring. Just answer the question. Forget about Claire. So, okay, you said maternal instinct. Do you know there's something called the baby brain? Do you know what the baby brain is, Che?
That's to do with maternity.
Yeah, so it's a real thing. When you have a child, and it shouldn't be surprising considering biology is amazing and amazingly well designed. When you have a child, your brain, if you're a mother, the mother's brain restructures to focus on taking care of kids, which makes sense because we're specialists, right? Yeah. So if you don't have that maternal instinct, you've not developed properly. There's something wrong.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I've seen that happen in my own life. As soon as child's born, woman changes. Yeah, and but not all women are like that. There's some that are just and that's not their fault. It's not made to be mothers.
Okay, my argument would be that there's some women who are not like that. There's two things. There's nature and nurture, right? So the nature is doing its job. It does, restructure the brain. And even then, if you can't be a good mother, right? Maybe you weren't nurtured or raised to think motherhood is good. And so you belittle motherhood so much that you're just itching to get back to work. Do you think, from the example that's you in your mind, do you think that could have been a thing? Like, that's a career lady and they value
absolutely. Or if a child's taught to have a career over a motherhood, and especially in today's world, absolutely.
Cool. Let's just whiz through. Where are the questions other than May? What's May saying here? So women who are not socialized to behave the same as men. Socialization by gender results in different outcomes. So maybe, I'm not sure what she's saying here, but I would say maybe she's just suggesting that all this gender stuff is a social contract. What's the word? Construct. Right? And so women could be socialized to be like men, and then they would be like men. But there's no evidence to that, to think that. In fact, I just given the opposite evidence, a baby brain thing. That's part of biology. There's no social construct or socialization there. And also there's things, testosterone makes you more logical. That's biology again. And it shouldn't be surprising, though, if we just step back for a little bit and forget our kind of ideologies or what we would like. We would like women to go to and women having freedom, means going out to work and all these modern ideas, right? That's not what I believe. I think it's a modern idea. If we just step back and say, oh, women have babies, so they'll be good at having babies. And then we are made in pairs, husband and wife, right? And so doesn't it make sense that when a woman is sort of immobilized, you can't run around with a child, you can't run around when you're, let's go like the hunter-gatherer days, right? When you really can't do much, you need a man to provide for you, So doesn't it make sense that men will just be better at providing? And they are. The stats show that. So I don't think there's the idea of that we're socialized into our gender roles doesn't seem to have any legs. Does that make sense? Like, there's so much evidence counter to that idea that I just provided, Jay.
Well, yeah, but it's all, it's all a mess. It's a total, and as each week goes on, it gets more messy. So the social construct now is that we haven't got a social construct. And if anything, to be traditional is considered not good. So the more stupid we can be, or the more ineffective we can be, then the more we get praised, So women can have 7 kids by 4 blokes, and it's just a madhouse, And
So just to be clear, when you're saying it's a mess, and when you don't I kind of feel like you're talking about the trans movement, that a man could be a woman. It's getting
No,
more
no.
out of control.
The trans movement is a consequence of the insanity. So
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I thought you were saying.
Hang on. Instead of addressing the trans movement and address what's behind it, you see that 20 years ago, the trans movement was the gay movement.
Yeah.
So now they've changed it to trans. So the next thing they're going to be looking at is underage sex, as in dropping the ages.
And that's becoming very popular.
And then from then, it'll turn into bestiality, where it's okay to have sex with a dog.
Yeah. I think you've got the trajectory 100% correct. I totally agree. Yeah. So when you don't have any rules, there's no right, there's no wrong. Anything you feel is right. If you feel like a woman while you're a man, therefore you're a woman.
Well, oddly enough, there's a rabbi called Mizrahi, and I don't know if you and Claire have heard of him. But
Claire's always talking about him. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. But he talks about shame, and that the human being has a condition called shame and pride. But dogs don't, which is why dogs can go to the toilet in the street. And what a lot of the progressives are wanting is that they're wanting to be able to have sex in the street, etc., and it not be abnormal and things like that. So, I mean, already in San Francisco and Los Angeles, they're defecating in the street, and it's becoming normal. So it's, let's turn into animals.
Yeah, I totally agree with. I think degeneration or being degenerative is a natural result of not having laws like religion provides.
Yeah, it's not following them, and it's like it's as a kid, it's like staying up late. Your parents go out, they want you in bed at 9 o'clock, and you stay until 9:30, and you think, wow, isn't it great? I'm up late. Well, in the adult world, it's like, look, I can be a woman, I can be a man, I can be whatever, I can, and I think it's just idiots, really. They should be locked up and kept away from society. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, there's that approach, but also you can take pity because these people, there are consequences to stepping outside these religious rules. These religious rules work. There's so much evidence that these rules work, right? Okay. In terms of just like having children and stuff like that and breakdown, like if you're...
Oh, it's definitely better. It doesn't matter what religion, it's definitely better.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are a lot of consequences. People don't realize. They think there's just freedom and there's no consequences, but there definitely are. So Claire suggested quite intelligently that I should try to do a summary at the end of the class and steel man any counter arguments as well. So I think the key counter argument is that I think the general key counter argument to what I'm saying of traditional values is that people should be free to do anything they want, right? But the problem with being free to do with anything you want is that it doesn't work. For example, population levels are going down because people are free to do whatever they want. But if you go to the other end of the spectrum, where people willingly choose to have rules, they're called principles and values. Those are the rules. And those are good things last time I checked, right? When you have those things, you are happier because actually those rules are for your own good. They're not like stupid random rules. They're like, you know what? I'm a man. I just happen to be good at, I just like computers naturally. And I like doing all this kind of technical stuff, right? And that just happened to make money because it always had. Like men are just generally industrious, right? They like, working with computers and making things more efficient and all this kind of stuff, right? So let me, the man, do that and let the woman do what she loves. Women hate going to work, and they do the crappiest jobs. Women know they do the crappiest low-paid jobs that men don't even want to do, like teaching nowadays. Like teaching has become really abusive. I don't work in schools anymore because of that reason, right? So like women are just really don't even want to go to the work. They want to take care of their children. They're biologically made to even almost die for their children if their brains are set properly, right? Okay, because that's how they're made, right? So let people, traditional values are actually natural values, and that's what the Quran also teaches, that we have the teachings of Islam are based on human nature. They're not against you. They're not there to lock you up. They're in the long run, they're there to make you happier. It's so sad nowadays that hardly anybody in the West is getting married, which is one of the most beautiful things you can do. A relationship between a man and a woman, and have children and all that kind of stuff. It's so fantastic, and a message out there to everybody out there: just let go of these stupid liberal values. It's making you miserable. It's making you lonely. Can't you just see what's happening in England, in the West? Thank you for listening. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to try to listen to Claire. She's got a good point that I'll have the last word. It's all right, Jay. But thank you very much here for joining us, Jay. Thank you very much, Claire, as always, for being
here. Just say one thing. I apologise to Claire for likening her to Myra Hindley. I actually meant to use Rose West.
Okay. Boring. Okay. Thank you, Claire, as well. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.